Release the McDavid. Captain Connor has his freedom, and he can wreak havoc again on NHL goaltenders. We get you set for the Oilers of the Kraken on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Hope you're doing well on this lovely Monday in oil country. The Oilers playing game number 50 on the season, taking on the 22, 25, and 3 Seattle Kraken. Edmonton 31-15 and 3. Tom Gazzola, Hernan Salas with you. Matt Caston will be joining us in about 10 minutes time. You're going to hear from Mike Benton as well from the Kraken Audio Network. Mike usually hosts the pre and post game show on their radio side of things. However, with it being Prime Monday and Johnny Forsland being on the call for that game, Everett Fitzhugh, who you've seen and heard from on this station, saw him earlier on the Reed Wilkins show, and you've seen him here on the pregame show before. He gets bumped up to TV, and Mike Benton gets bumped up to radio play-by-play. He did a lot of radio play-by-play for the Everett Silvertips. He was with the Stockton Heat. He spent some time in the AHL as well, and you're going to hear from Mike. You can join the conversation. Hit us up on the text line, 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat on YouTube. Of course, GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to ejectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. Let's see and hear from the Latino Heat. Hernan Salas, Nancito, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good, Tommy. You know, Monday, 7:30 game. Why not, eh?
Why not?
Chill.
Sure. Who gives a rat's ass?
Hey, but it's going to be the McDavid show. That's what we're all anticipating, as he's going to be angry, like he said in his pregame avail. Antsy, he's ready to go. You know what I noticed, Tom? And you were there, obviously. I felt like he had a little bit of attitude today.
Some sassiness?
Some sassiness. It reminded me of Leon. Yeah, like he just wasn't having it today. Maybe he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Maybe he didn't have his cornflakes this morning. I don't know, but he seemed a little. I mean, if I'm the Kraken, I'm a little concerned right now.
Yeah, look out for Connor. I think the partner parlay over on Coolbet today is McDavid 2 points.
Yeah,
Draisaitl goal, Oilers to win. It was only plus 225 or 250. I put a little sprinkle on there because I think that's probably going to happen tonight. The Oilers have absolutely owned the Seattle Kraken since they've come into the NHL. The Oilers are 10-2 versus Seattle. So they've won 7 straight against the Kraken. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. There's no reason for it to. The Kraken have been playing better lately. Seattle winners of, I think it's, 3 of 4, 4 of their last 6. And looking to make a playoff push because they want another crack at the postseason. Of course, knocking off the defending Cup champs a couple of postseasons ago when they beat the Colorado Avalanche, surprising everybody. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Edmonton has absolutely owned this season series. So we'll see if they can continue that with McDavid back in action tonight. Does that mean we have a question of the night from you in regard to that?
We have a question of the night, not regarding because I think it's too simple. What do you? Obviously, everybody's pumped. McDavid's back. I like Denver. Corky says Hernan. Maybe he did have his cornflakes this morning, but someone did something to them.
Like heat in them. He's got his game face on. Oh.
Yeah. No. The question of the night is: we saw the lines this morning. Looks like Jeff Skinner's out. I want to ask our nasties 780-218-9999. Text us or hit us up on the nasty chat. Is Jeff Skinner the player you would have took out for today's game? And is it fair that he's out? And I say fair, Tom, because the last 2 games, you're on the number 1 power play unit for a reason. You scored a goal. Overall, you played pretty well. Like, isn't there something about rewarding players? And now, usually. I understand Kapanen's been good. I understand Noel Phillip in a limited time has shown some good things. So I just want to get the feeling from the Nasties. Is he the player you would have took out of the lineup? And is it fair what's happening to him? Because he has been playing better. Like I said, scores a goal last game, and then he finds himself back in the press box. I guess we'll start with you, Tom. What do you think of this whole Jeff Skinner sitting out tonight?
No, it's not fair. But I think we've just gotten
not about fair, right?
No, it's not about fair. That's another good point. But it is to a point here where I think Jeff Skinner and his value to this Oilers team is as a complementary piece, nothing more. He's not thought of immediately as a guy that they're going to go to for things, offense included, which is unfortunate because that is clearly why they brought him in, thinking that he would slide right in, play with McDavid or Draisaitl, score a bunch of goals, get back to that 40-goal form or somewhere near it, 30 goals, hell, 25. And he has 8, Hernan, in the games that he has played this year. And Skinner so far, he's been a healthy scratch for a chunk of them. He's played 44 games. He's got 16 points. He's -8. Generally ineffective most nights. Generally doesn't get a lot of shifts most nights. Minimized in his role. We're at the point now with 32 games left. He's 33, 32. He's not what the coaching staff wanted. Pretty clear. I don't think it's ever going to improve, and it's a debate that'll go away by next season.
Tom, this is what I don't understand, though, because you had other options to put on the first unit power play. You did. And maybe they did it because it was Buffalo, but even the previous game, they put him on the first unit power play.
Yep.
And the guy's doing exactly why you brought him in. He scored a goal. So for me, it's like he's doing what he excels at. He's doing it well in the last 2 games. Don't get me wrong. He hasn't been fantastic. He was good. Mm-hmm. But, isn't there something to reward a player for saying, hey, man, thanks for toughing it out on the bottom 6. You're finally finding your game, even though it's a small sample size, but we're going to keep you in the lineup. That's what I mean, where I know it's not about being fair and all that, but I just find that there's other players that get a pass, and I get they do other things maybe better than Skinner, but the production, buddy. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just kind of, maybe I've become a Jeff Skinner guy, and maybe that's who I've just become, Tommy, and maybe forgive me for that, but you're a
Skinner apologizer.
I just thought it was a good conversation because I know I asked you guys on the post-game show, and I think we all said we don't agree with it, but Jeff Skinner's probably the odd man out.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just at the point now where it's like he's not getting the benefit of the doubt. He's the guy that comes out. So be it. Nothing's going to change unless there's an injury. You can make a case for Kasperi Kapanen. He made that nice play on the goal, on Nugent Hopkins' goal. Skinner is not a penalty killer, obviously, and Matthias Janmark is. I don't think you're not touching Philp. You want him to continue to develop. So there's no one really else that you're going to pull out of the lineup because everyone else is playing decently well. And Nat, so you're right. He was on the power play the other night, but it wasn't good. No, he was not good on the power play. When they started that one power play, and it was all moving on his side where, the Oilers were controlling it on his side where McDavid usually is. And it was sloppy. It took them 40 seconds after they got into that power play to finally slide it back over to Leon Draisaitl. Then him and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins tried to get something going on that side, and it wasn't working at all. So, they tried it. It didn't work. He did get that 5-on-5 goal, which was important against Buffalo because it wasn't a particularly well-played game by the Oilers, but they did get the win. He did contribute offensively. I think we're just resigned to the fact that he is the extra forward now, and I think that's an upgrade over Derek Ryan. Absolutely.
Sure.
And I think as Noah Philp continues. So I think with Skinner being the 13th guy and Noah Philp now being your 4th-line center for the time being, I think it's slightly better as a forward unit, the group as a whole. Not much, but a little bit. But anyway, I think this is just how it's going to be the rest of the year unless somebody gets hurt. I really do.
It's going to be a mixture. I'm a little surprised because I think Chief Andy says, sorry, I'm just trying to scroll back here. Skinner has not had the opportunity to play with McDavid or Dry, yet he's 5th in points -goals, which makes an
15 goals, yeah.
He says, it is unfair. I would have sat out Noah Philp.
Yeah, then you got to move someone over to center. Then why do you have Philp up here? Because they need him to play, right? They need him to play, and that's the rationale there. And yeah, it's ultimately, though, we debate it, we discuss it. It's a good problem.
100%.
a good
Yeah,
problem.
it's to have a. And again, I don't agree with our buddy DiBiase that he's the worst player in the NHL.
Well, Joe had a tough day yesterday on the Bills post game, so I think Joe was already stressed out, and he doesn't hold back. But he had 5 or 6 years of Jeff Skinner, so he just let it rip.
I heard it on Reed's show, and someone asked why does Arvidsson get a pass? And I think it's a valid question. I do.
If I were to tackle that question, I would say I feel like the Oilers and the coaching staff appreciates his consistency, his tenacity, and his willingness to do some things that Jeff Skinner doesn't do.
Jeff Skinner does. Yeah, so it's that simple.
That would be I think that's the answer most would come to at the end of the day, but that's probably it. All right. Send in your text. I see a bunch that have come in. We'll get to those. Cass is about to hop on. We need to get to starting lineups and your injury report, and then we'll get into the question of the night one more time because it is a valid discussion. It's not going to go away. I think it's going to be something that we're talking about for a while for the rest of the year. And if it is one of the concerns or topics of debate, I think you're in a good place. And the Oilers are looking to take back first in the division if they can win against the Seattle Kraken tonight. All right, let's get to your starting lineups brought to you by South Fort Chev. Reserve your 2025 Equinox tracks and Traverse now. They won't last long. They've also got the best discounts on 2025 Silverados, and they won't be beat. See dealer for details at www.southfortchev.com. For the Oil, Connor McDavid makes his return with Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. They're going nuclear or supernova, whatever term you want to use. McDavid with Draisaitl and Hyman. Welcome back, Cap. Adam Henrique between Podkolzin and Arvidsson. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with Janmark and Brown. Noah Philp with Corey Perry and Kasperi Kapanen. On defense, Ekholm with Bouchard. Nurse, who did not take the morning skate and was under the weather, is expected to play. He should be paired up with Stetcher. Kulak back with Everson. If there's a change there, we will let you know later on in the show. When the teams hit the ice for warm-up, Jeff Skinner, John Klingberg will not play. Klingberg also not on the ice today, dealing with immigration. Had to go to the consulate in Calgary. If you're like, why the hell do they have to do that? It's kind of how it's been for a while. They go down there to the consulate in Calgary, and it takes a little bit of time. All right, for the Seattle Kraken tonight, Matty Beniers between Jaden Schwartz and Capo Caco. Andre Burakovsky with Chandler Stevenson and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Shane Wright between Jared McCann and Eli Tolvanen. Mitchell Stevens centering Brandon Tanev and Ty Karche on defense for Seattle. Vince Dunn with Adam Larson. Jamie Alexiak with Brandon Montour. Riker Evans with Josh Mahura. I wonder if Hersey's listening. Nah, he's probably having a beverage in the club section at the game. That is his brother, of course. Out for the Kraken tonight, John Hayden. In goal for the Edmonton Oilers, 32-year-old Calvin Pickard. 12-4 on the season, 250 goals against average, 899 save percentage in 18 games this year. Pickard versus the Kraken, a 1-0 record, 2.0 goals against average, 899 save percentage in that lone appearance versus Seattle. If you're going, why Pickard? If you didn't hear it, Stu Skinner and his wife, Chloe, welcomed their second child into the world today. So a fresh bebe for Stu Skinner and Chloe Skinner. Congratulations to them, their second. So that's why we will have, backing up Calvin Pickard, Ty Palmer from the University of Alberta Golden Bears.
Okay, Tom. Yeah, because Gager and I were like, wait, if Skinner's not there, who's the backup? So Gager was going to take his equipment just in case.
He should. He should.
Yeah, okay. So, wow. Interesting night then.
So the Oilers signed him to a day contract, or I think it's amateur contract, and that doesn't affect his status or anything like that, obviously, with the U of A, and potentially another Golden Bear playing in the NHL tonight, because we know the Oilers tend to have one or two kicking around like Noah Philp and Derek Ryan. So that is who is in net for the Oil. Calvin Pickard, Stuart Skinner celebrating the birth of his bebe, and Ty Palmer from the Golden Bears will be backing up Pickard. For the Kraken tonight, we anticipate 28-year-old Joey Decord getting the nod. He is 17-11-2, 243 goals against average, 917 save percentage, one shutout in 32 games this season. He has been excellent. He has taken the number one job from Philip Grubauer in Seattle. Decord, though, versus Edmonton, 0-4-1 record, 389 goals against average, 879 save percentage in 6 games versus the Oil. That leads us to the Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy Injury Report. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. Whether you're recovering from an injury or looking to enhance performance, we treat you like a pro, using the same locker room approach trusted by the best in the game. For Edmonton, on defense, and out due to a knee surgery and recovering from it, Alec Regula, and we could be seeing him sent down to Bakersfield for a conditioning stint. And then also out, LTIR, abdominal surgery and knee surgery of Vander Kane. If you're like, when's he coming back? Is it anytime soon? Your guess is as good as ours, is as good as the Oilers' guess, because who knows at this point. As for the Seattle Kraken, Jordan Eberle, their captain, IR, pelvic surgery. Yanni Gourde, an important bottom 6 player, IR, lower body. That is your Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy Injury Report, as we welcome in our game analyst, Matt Cassian, who is good to go. He has no pelvic surgery required. He does not have a lower body injury. He did not need abdominal surgery. He has had it before. He's had athletic pubalgia, but he is ready to rock. Victory is his. Victory today is his. I'm trying to read that hat. Did I get it?
You got it. Yeah, well, victory is mine. Victory is mine. Victory today is mine. That's
very nice.
Yeah.
Where'd you dig that out from?
It's an old gospel song, actually. Old gospel choir, yeah, early old. So it's a good one. I like it.
Do you have a voice of an angel?
Debatable. You're not going to hear it here, Tom. I can tell you that much. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to hear it. Cass, before we dive into Game Changers, I kind of want to hear what you have to think about the question of the night. And I've got a few texts that have come in. Naz, so throw it out there again if you don't mind.
Yeah, Cass, it's pretty simple. Are you okay with Jeff Skinner being the odd man out tonight? And I just to add to it, the reason we're asking this is he's played pretty good the last 2 games. He scored a goal. Isn't there something about rewarding the player for playing good and doing what he was brought here to do, which is score goals? I know it's a tough decision because there's not a lot of options, but do you agree with it? And is there something about rewarding a player who's had a tough year?
It is a tough decision, but you're looking for a guy to come out on that left side. You're not going to take out Janmark. You're not going to take out Podkolzin. Right now, you're not going to take out Perry if he slides over there. Like in Kapanen scored 2, right? Like, so you're kind of in like, I don't think it's a bad place because it's a tough decision. And if he wants to stay, and he has to continue to play well. Now, if he starts stringing some games together, maybe gets a little bit more of a chance. But guys, listen. I'm not shocked, not surprised. It was Skinner or Kapanen. We still could see a rotation go through with those guys, but it's going to be one of the two. And tonight it was Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, Cal in the park texting in saying, I agree with Hernan. Skinner came in as a goal scorer, not a defensive specialist, not one who creates his own shot, a shooter that scores. Is what he has always been. The city was overjoyed to get him in the summer. Now he is Miro Shatan. Great reference to the late 90s Oilers. And Miro Shatan went on to be a great goal scorer for Buffalo, Pittsburgh for a while. I feel like he was in Boston as well. So Miro Shatan, that's a good comparison. And although the Oilers gave up on Shatan early in his career, and then they picked up Skinner in the middle to late part of his career. So let us know your thoughts, 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat as well. It's the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Tom Gazzola, Matt Cassian, and the Latino Heat, Hernan Salas with you as we get into Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Damon Bunting has been a consistent top-producing realtor in the greater Edmonton area for over 17 years. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. He's community-driven and understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. So check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Cast number 1 the return.
Well, how can it not be anything but Connor McDavid coming back from a suspension? He is excited. He is ready. He is chomping at the bit, as it were, to get back out there and to play a real hockey game and not just practice. So, hey, let's expect Connor to be absolutely flying tonight. I think the Seattle Kraken know and expect and anticipate that he's going to be a pretty big ask, whether it ends up being the Alexiak pair or the Larson pair that gets Connor McDavid. He's going to be a handful tonight, guys. Like he wants to feel it. He wants to feel it early. Anticipate Connor McDavid flying right out of the gate. Like he is going to want to be back in a big way. So how can game changer number one be anything but the return of Connor McDavid?
Totally fair. Do you think he's going to be ornery out there, Cass?
He's going to be very ornery. I don't know if he cross-checks anyone in the face.
Well, that's
today.
Hopefully he doesn't.
Hopefully not, because then they'll give him a 20-game suspension. Would be about right by their math. But
dirty player.
Yeah, super dirty.
Yeah. McDavid, by the way, coming into action. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth points in points in the National Hockey League at 65 through 43 games. 20 goals, 45 assists. He could catch Mitch Marner tonight if he wants to. And then,
you might want to, which is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he might get there. And then he's 8 points back of Kucherov, 9 back of Draisaitl, and 12 back of Nathan McKinnon. Hey, Cass, I know we knew about the trade in Carolina and with Colorado. Chicago obviously was a third party in there, but now that we've had a couple of days to decipher it, is Carolina like a legit? What is the Colorado Avalanche now after that deal? Because we could see them in the postseason potentially.
Yeah, the Colorado Avalanche are a team that's a wild card threat, potentially an upset threat, but probably not a Stanley Cup threat. And the reason I say that is, you still have Nathan McKinnon, who can win a game, win a series, just with utter dominance. You still have Cale Makar, who can do the same thing. But I don't think without a Rantanen, you don't have that extra wild card, that second superstar player that most teams have when they win a Stanley Cup and they go deep. So they could surprise a team for sure. They could win around if they make it in for sure. But I don't think the Colorado Avalanche, after the Rantanen trade, are nearly the threat that they were with him in the lineup. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes, they were a cup contender to me before the Rantanen trade. They are even more so now. I mean, they are, in my opinion, heavy favorites in the East to come out of that conference and potentially win a Stanley Cup. I mean, they got a lot better, and they were already really good.
Well said, sir. Well said. All right, I think the next one has to do with something that Anthony on Long Island wants to know about. So I will go to Matt Casson on point number 2 of Game Changers, and that is the overload, Cass.
Yeah, overloading. McDavid steps back in the lineup, and you're starting the game with him and Draisaitl on a line. And I'm sure there's multiple reasons for this, and this is what I wanted to get to. And I think, first and foremost, you're wanting to get McDavid engaged early. Again, like he's chomping at the bit. He's ready to go. There's no one he likes playing more with than Leon Draisaitl. So you're going to say, here you go.
Right.
Here's your favorite guy. Welcome back. Here you go. Just go. That's reason number 1. Now, reason number 2, which may be the bigger reason, is the Seattle Kraken are really a by committee team. They're a by committee team. It's like, lines 1 through 3, all pretty similar. They don't have any absolute studs. They don't have a superstar player really. Now they have guys that can score goals and put some points up, but outside of Chandler Stevenson and Schwartz McCann, and even those guys in terms of total points, it's not like they are a crazy threatening one-line type of team. And I think for Chris Knobloch, the thought here in going to that line is saying, we are going to make you guys have to deal with a ultra powerful line, and we don't think that you have a response to that. Now you have some players, sure, you're by committee, sure, but you can't feel the line, in my opinion, if you're the Seattle Kraken and Dan Bylsma, Francis is the GM, Dan Bylsma, like I don't think you can feel the line that is going to be able to skate with that group and going to be able to contain them. And so you're kind of looking at it, I think, for two angles from Chris Knobloch. And again, those are the two to me. You want to get McDavid into it early. You want him feeling good, getting right back into the thick of things. And second, I think you want to try to force the Seattle Kraken to find a way to deal with that line, because I can tell you everyone in that dressing room is probably looking at the depth chart for the night going like, oh crap, they're playing together. Like, and whoever's assignment it's going to end up being trying to get that matchup is going like, oh crap, like here we go. We like, this is going to be a night. This is going to be tough. And that's, I think, a little bit of the mind games you're going with this. I don't know if it's going to last the whole game. Could depend on how the rest of the group plays and how Edmonton plays as a whole. But at least off the start, you're going for a little bit of the head games, forcing Seattle to play you. And second to that, you just want McDavid to feel good and get out there and get up to speed.
Okay, I'll further that. Lines 2 and 3 for the Oilers. You've got Nugent Hopkins with Janmark and Brown, but Henrique is with Podkolzin and Arvidsson. When you saw that, were you like, interesting. Why are they doing that? What do you think the theory is there?
Yeah, I mean, the Henrique is a little bit more interesting. I think you're looking at that, though, and saying, okay, for Podkolzin and Arvidsson, guys that are going to generally try to dig pucks out of the corners, be good on the forecheck. And I think you're looking at this going like, okay, for Henrique, he can play a little bit more of a conservative position, try to get pucks to the net for sure, but he's not going to be F1 that frequently, right? Like you're kind of looking at this going like the other two guys are going to be F1 or first guy in on the forecheck, first forward, to try to pressure, to try to turn the puck outside, and hopefully use some of the veteran savvy that Henrique has to generate some offense in the zone. I think that's the thought with that line. Now, when we look at the RNH Janmark line, you're looking for speed there still. Now, we've seen Janmark and Brown have success at times offensively, and they've had some success with Henrique. But I think you're looking, from a stylistic standpoint, is RNH going to fit better with Podkolzin and Arvidsson, or is his play style going to fit a little bit better with Janmark and Brown? And I kind of lean towards what they're doing of like, if you are going to load up that top line, sliding RNH down to Janmark and Brown, and RNH has started to produce a little bit, guys. Yep. Let's not forget that. Like he started to put some points together and some good games together here. I think your thought is he's driving a little bit more now, and with those two guys may have the capacity to do it with a little bit more speed on that line.
Nugent Hopkins, 4 points in his last 2 games, by the way, 5 in his last 4. He has been putting up numbers more consistently, like you alluded to. Matt Cassian, it is Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate with our game analyst, Matt Cassian. Tom Gazzola Hernandez also with you. You can text us 780-218-9999. Maybe you're on your way to the game. If you're listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Apple Music, EdmontonSportsTalk.com's audio player, thank you very much. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like. We appreciate it so much. Point number 1 on Game Changers was the return. Point number 2, the overload. Point number 3, Cass, I like this one. It's interesting. The tender. The
tender, yeah. The little bebe for the Skinners. Little bebe, cute little bebe, which is a wonderful, beautiful, amazing thing. And, obviously wish them all the best in that process. You go from 1 to 2. I don't think it's quite as big of a life change as going from 0 to 1 or 2 to 3, but it's still, it's something. And in the meantime, Calvin Pickard throwing back in there. He's been really, really good his last 10 starts. I don't think, the Seattle Kraken are going to be staring at this going like, ooh, we get the backup tonight. Pickard has been very, very good.
Yes.
And hopefully continues to be good. Now for him, maybe not quite a scheduled start, but one at the same time, he probably knew, well, it's possible and likely that the Skinners have their baby at some point, so I'm probably going to have to play those games. But there's no backup for him, right? So you're kind of put in that position where it's like you're forced to play, and you're forced to play well, and if you're not, you're still going to stay in net. Like the likelihood of you getting pulled for being scored on and having a struggle is pretty low here for Calvin Pickard. But for the Edmonton Oilers, you have faith in him as a backup. He has played really well as a whole on the season. Look for him to have another solid night, but it's just always a little bit of a different one where he originally probably wasn't scheduled to start tonight. But Calvin Pickard in the net, in between the pipes, needs to have a good night for the Edmonton Oilers.
A couple of things to add to that. Pickard did pick up the win against the Kraken earlier this month. And then the other thing, the Oilers did sign Tyler Palmer out of the U of A to an amateur tryout, and he will dress as the backup to Pickard. So no, it won't be Joaquin Gage returning to the Oilers 25 years or 24 years after his last game and appearance in orange and blue. And then you mentioned something there. I don't know what parenting is about. I've never had to I only know driving my parents crazy. When you go from 2 to 3, like you said, and what kind of game changer that is it like going from man coverage to zone?
Yep.
Like how do you do that?
You don't. Yes. Yeah. I like 0 to 1 is definitely, and for guys in the league, I think, and Kyle Turris told me this once. I don't know if it's true, and I think Spezza was on board too. I think he had actually said the same thing, in that statistically, offensively, at least for offensive players, they usually have their worst year the first year when they have a new kid, because it changes your life.
Yeah.
And in a great way, but your schedule's different, responsibilities are different, napping's different, sleeping's different, like everything is different. And I don't think it's as big of a change going from 1 to 2, because in some ways it's easier, depending if baby's healthy and mom's healthy and all that. It's easier because you're not, you have some experience. They squawk and you're not guessing, are they alive? Are they okay? Do we need to go to the hospital every 10 seconds? Where with your first, that's a lot of the feeling that you have, is you're kind of trying to learn this responsibility. I mean, I still remember with the first, where it's like, you the hospital for a day or whatever. And then they're like, okay, well, here you go home now. And you're like, wait, you're letting me leave with this human and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, can we stay a little longer and someone show me what to do here? But it's not quite the same for baby number 2. Now going to number 3, as you said, you are going from man on man to zone defense. And it's just, you can't pair off, right? Someone is watching at least 2 of them at once,
right?
And it just gets more complex and complicated and wonderful. It's a great thing. But yeah, it's just more work.
I love it. Cass, I'll throw this at both you and Hernan really quickly. Do you recall the last time the Oilers had to put an ATO goalie in, and who was it? Also from the U of A Golden Bears.
Ooh, who was it? It wasn't Aaron Sorokin, although I know he had a couple ATOs.
Yep.
That's when a lot of people got upset because the Oilers apparently showed disrespect to their opponent by going.
Well, it was Chicago, so nobody gives to you know what.
Yeah, no one cares. Oh, I can't remember his name. This is horrible.
You're gonna, as soon as I say it, you're gonna be like, oh yeah. Should I say it, or do you want to?
You should say it, because I'm not going to remember right now.
It was almost 2 years ago to the day, January 28th, 2023. Matt Berlin went in for the last 2.5 minutes of the game against the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
2:26 is actually what he played. He's 27 now, played his last year with the Golden Bears last season. Doesn't look like he's playing right now, unless his hockey DB is missing it. And so today it's Ty Palmer who will back up Calvin Pickard. I always find that really interesting when a guy gets an opportunity like that. And the Oilers have, I think you guys were talking about it, Hernan. There's a few e-bugs that they have. And it's, they have U of A Golden Bears, and then they have the McEwen Griffins, who are right there at the DCA. So they have a couple that come up, and I think they get paid per game regardless if they have to dress or anything like that. Just kind of like an allowance, so it doesn't affect anything, right? But
yeah, I think it's $100 or $200 or something. It's not.
Yeah.
And they get a ticket to the game. They get to watch. They get to have fun. So
so it's not NCAA.
How nervous is this young man today?
I would be excited.
Well, excited, nervous. Like
a little bit of both.
This game.
A little bit of both.
I wonder, like, if you're in that situation. We saw the guy in Ottawa that had to run. He had to get out of his girlfriend's car with his gear, and he had to run off that
because of the traffic.
Oh God, Cass, as well as I, it better actually, playing for the Sens, that stupid overpass that is like one way in, one way out. There was such a jam to get in. He was going to be late. He had to run with his gear, and then finally someone picked him up and drove him to the front where he had to get in. But I know it's the NHL. I just hope like these guys get to enjoy the moment, and I'm sure there's nerves, but if they do play, they do play really good hockey. They play in a great league. So I don't know if that emboldens them or whatever, but I just think about that kind of stuff, like what it would be like and what kind of mental games you would play in that situation, right?
A lot of adrenaline, but I don't think it really necessarily hits. Like probably in warm up, you got a bunch, right? I mean, it's like being dressed for your first NHL game, but then you're not actually playing. But if you see the other goaltender being like slow to get up or get bumped or something, I think the heart rate has to rise a couple of notches. But we know because we know Gager that goalies are all psycho. So their heart rate probably actually slows down because they're crazy sociopaths, all of them, every single one. Yeah.
Exactly, especially Joaquin Gage.
Joaquin Gage.
He'll be on the broadcast tonight. He has not called me to let me get him up to my place. I apologize, Joaquin. I did not buzz you in the other day, and you did not have to sit in the cold for very long. You probably walked inside comfortably to the arena and then complained to Gene about how I'm a jerk. That's probably what happened. Okay, I'm going to read a couple texts really quickly, get some thoughts from Cass and Hernan before we move on from Cass and Game Changers. Hampton Steve says, gents, any concern with how the Oilers always seem to play up or down to the level of their opponents? That this game tonight will be much closer and more difficult than it should be based on paper. Cass and Gager, go for it. Or not Gager, Nanso, go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't agree because I think this season there have been moments where they played down to the level of the opponent. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There have been moments. But as a whole, they've generally beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. It's not too long ago we were complaining about how they hadn't beat enough playoff teams. They'd only beat the little teams, right? Like, and that narrative I think has changed because Edmonton has beat some really good teams and played well against some really good teams. And hey, they're I guess now a point out in the Pacific Division lead, but they have crawled up those standings by beating good teams and by beating poor teams. So I don't buy into that narrative because I think they've beat those bottom feeding teams enough this year. Again, we can look to a couple instances. We could go back to like San Jose, Anaheim, Montreal a few times where they haven't played a good team, and they played down. But as a whole, I think they've been pretty good in that regard. So I don't buy into that.
I just feel like every time the Oilers play a team that's less bottom of the standings or not as good as the Edmonton Oilers, we always get a little nervous saying the Oilers are not going to be up to snuff and is it a trap game and all that. But I think, they've dropped a few games, but every good team does, guys. We've seen Tampa Bay's, Colorado's, the Carolinas lose to teams that are not playoff teams. So I'm not too worried about this. I do like Seattle's lineup. I think they have 4 lines that can go. It was funny because earlier you guys were talking with Cass about lineup matchups and going nuclear. And we asked Al Kaniski, who's the radio color guy for the Seattle Kraken. He goes, I don't think they're going to try to match up a line. I think they're going to try to just, whoever's out, like depending, because they don't get the first change, right? So he goes, even if they wanted to match up, they might not get it. So he just said, he goes, I think he feels comfortable rolling the first 3 lines against him. And I don't think there's one specific line to match that line.
Interesting. I mean, that line's going to overwhelm whoever they're playing against. No disrespect, especially to the Kraken, but that's one of the best lines in the league when it's together. Sean finally adds this. It would have been awesome if Joaquin Gage was called in for e-bug duty. I imagine him yelling at his wife, Megan, for the goalie pants stretcher. Signed, Sean. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's for another day. Tyler Palmer will be backing up Calvin Pickard. Matt Cassian bringing it, as always, on Game Changers. Cass, enjoy the game, and we'll catch up with you on the post-game show.
Thanks, fellas.
That is our game analyst, Matt Cassian, with Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Damon Bunting now with the agency. It was the return, McDavid, the overload, McDavid with Draisaitl and Hyman, and then the tender, Calvin Pickard, gets the start because Stuart Skinner celebrating the birth of his second boy today. Him and his wife, Chloe, welcoming the baby boy into the world. I haven't seen a name yet. I kind of took a quick look on X, Twitter, whatever it's called these days, and I didn't see anything. So if anybody has it, let me know. Darnell Nurse is on the ice for warm-up, and so, which is what we expected, right?
Yeah, that's good news. You need him in the lineup and just under the weather. But he's going to tough it out. We all know how tough Darnell is, so good to see him. It's same D pairing, so I don't think, because Regula skated, today.
Yeah,
Bears, right?
he's been skating for the last week or two with the team.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he's getting close.
Do you expect Klimberg Thursday or Saturday, Tom?
I'd throw him in Thursday. I thought today there was an outside chance, and obviously, they sent him to Calgary for the immigration stuff, and then I'd get him in against Detroit, and no disrespect to Detroit, but they're not as good as the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then if you want to play him against the Leafs, I'd probably want him up and running a little bit and getting his first taste of NHL action in over a year and a bit against a team like Detroit over a team like Toronto. Just me. We'll see if that's what the coaching staff decides to do. All right, let's hear about the Seattle Kraken. I had a chance earlier in the day to catch up with Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network. He will be on the call on the radio side. Everett Fitzhugh moving up from radio to TV because Johnny Forsland is calling the game between the Blues and the Canucks, which is a prime game. 4-1, Vancouver leads St. Louis. 6 minutes left in the second, by the way. So here he is, the play-by-play voice and full-time pre- and post-game show host, Mike Benton, with yours truly. The Edmonton Oilers welcome in the Seattle Kraken for the second time this month. Joining us now from the Kraken Audio Network on play-by-play tonight because Johnny Forsland is busy with Prime. Oh, we love Prime in Canada. We won't get into that, Mike. But Mike Benton with us now, and no stranger to Edmonton and your time with the Oilers organization.
Oh, we had a bunch of fun here with this. So my background, for those who don't know, I was handling play-by-play PR for the Stockton Thunder when they were an Edmonton affiliate for years upon years. So I have seen a bunch from Devin Dubnyk to Brian Young to Theo Peckham to Brian Pitton, Olivier Waugh as well. There were some good teams that Stockton had back in its heyday when they were an Edmonton affiliate here, and also a chance to come up to Penticton for the Young Stars tournament, work with you as well, and see how many of these guys were on their way to development. Now, I never saw Jordan Eberle in the ECHL. I never saw Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, but when you had a chance to work those tournaments, you looked and you thought, they're going places, and here we are now.
Well, Eberle's now the captain of the Seattle Kraken. Nugent-Hopkins is the longest tenured.
It's a small world, Tom.
Yeah, it really is. You're doing Kraken coverage and a great job as always. Give us the scoop on this Kraken team because there has been success of late. 3 in their last 4, 4 of their last 6, which is pretty good. Trying to stay in the mix in this playoff picture in the Western Conference.
Well, they're in a playoff mode. They're in a win-now mode. They're in a must-win-now mode, if I should put it that way here. So they came back from a recent road trip looking at the schedule to play 9 of 11 games on home ice. We're getting closer and closer here to the Four Nations break, so this is a very critical period. They've got to rip off points in any way possible and quick to stay in the mix of this conversation because they've been hovering around 6 points out, 8 points out of the cut line in the last couple of weeks here. But they're also responding. 3-1, as you said, in this recent 4-game homestand. Defensively, metrics have not been pretty, but they've got one thing figured out. Joey Decor's been very dialed in, getting the bulk of starts here. Plus, and we'll talk about this as well, Matty Beniers has found 2 solid line mates, and we're seeing more and more of his game that got him to the Calder Trophy 2 years ago.
All right, let's talk about that line with Matty Beniers because it is having success, and then maybe give us a scoop on what's going on below that line because I look at the Kraken and go, maybe they're not getting enough scoring. You look at that game the other night, that's just one small sample size against Washington, but give us the scope of this team's offense.
Well, when you got a team out there like McDavid, Draisaitl, you can load them up and they can carry the mail for a good period of time. But this Kraken team has to rely on depth scoring right now. Matty Beniers is still young. Shane Wright is still very, very young too. So the thing with Beniers is that he's had a revolving door of line mates here for this season. Some because of injuries, some because of poor play as well. But that was the big question mark. How can you find a spark here for Beniers and resurrect his game to where it was 2 years ago? Enter Capo Caco. That trade paid off in big dividends here after a month recently here after they got him for the New York Rangers. Mm-hmm. He had to have a change of scenery. He admitted it as well, too, and he all of a sudden has found a new level to his game. He looks like a new man playing with Beniers. Jaden Schwartz as well. I think with Beniers additionally, I go back and think of 2 years ago when he had a big hit from Tyler Myers, right between the circles. That changed him a little bit, I thought. Now we're seeing more and more of a Beniers who plays with an edge. He's not afraid to go to the dirty areas here as well, too, and now he's finding offense. So behind that, What can you do for depth scoring? Chandler Stevenson, metrics for him were not pretty, and we all knew it for the first couple of months here of this season. But he's now this team's third leading scorer ever since the holiday break. Okay. He's finding something here with Bjorkstrand on his line as well. Additionally, the power play, he's been fantastic. Plus, he's their best face-off guy right now here for this team. And then you get to Shane Wright, who is still very, very young. We all know he's not going to be McDavid. He's not going to be Austin Matthews here. But he's got an extra gear inside of him that rises up for big games. When he's locked in with good defensive assignments as well, he makes a big difference. Plus, also, this team, their power play, he's the leading scorer as far as goals on this team.
Right. I want to ask you quickly about the defense because I really liked Will Borgen. I was like, this is a guy Edmonton should go after. And, of course, the Rangers pick him up. You got to give something to get something. Get Kakko with Seattle, and then Borgen goes over to New York, signs that extension. How is this team handling things on the defensive side with a hole on the back end from a guy who was here for a couple of years, putting in good effort?
Well, it was their strength for about a couple of months, 2.5 months as well, and finding offense from Brandon Montour, Vince Dunn. Riker Evans also has taken a big step recently here for this team. So this was the least of their concerns as far as consistency on the blue line. Will Borgen was a move they had to make to get Kakko and to shore up a little bit of their offense that was lacking up front as well. With Borgen, there was a big question of could he be re-signed? Was he going to be able to test the market additionally? That made him right maybe for trade deadline time to move him out. So when trade time came for Kakko, to give Will Borgen up, you have to give up something to get something. Yep. This was certainly the case here for his game. So, he's found a good fit. Ultimately, this could be a win-win trade here. You get Kakko in a new space where he needs a fresh start. He's found that here in Seattle. Will Borgen so far, good fit. That contract he signed, it's about roughly $4 million a year, but with this cap going up, Tom, that could age very, very well.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Connor McDavid is going to be fired up. He makes his return after the 3-game suspension. Nobody talked about that around here all week last week. I don't know if
never?
No, not at all. Everybody was like, that's right, he deserves it. The NHL, great. I'm just kidding, obviously. Totally facetious. He makes his return. Looks like he'll be playing with Leon Draisaitl. Things can change, and Chris Knobloch's not afraid to switch things up on the fly. If the Kraken are to be successful today, continue this run of success that they're having, they got to stop McDavid and Draisaitl. How do they do that? And then what else would lead them to a victory?
3 things come to mind here for me. Number 1, we don't know yet as far as this recording here, but it's got to be goaltending. And we've been kind of going back and forth. Will it be Decord? Will it be Grubauer? It's not so easy yet because the Kraken play back-to-back. Mm-hmm. And rare have they put a guy in net for 2 consecutive days. So, we'll wait and see here, but whoever's in net has got to come up with an A++ game for this evening, obviously. Secondly, I think for me, it's puck management. The more time the puck is on the stick here for the Kraken and less in the hands of McDavid or Draisaitl as well, the better odds that you have here, I think, for a game like this. And finally, just stay out of the penalty box. Right. I mean, Edmonton is collecting at about, I think, 30% on the power play in this head-to-head series for obvious reasons. You go 5-on-4, you put McDavid out there, Draisaitl, Bouchard, buckle up. So this is going to be a tough one here for the Kraken. McDavid, as you said, is going to be playing like an angry bird out there. The more and more that you can use the puck wisely to your advantage, the better off as far as the Kraken are concerned that they're going to be.
Calvin Pickard looks like he's going to go for the Oilers today. Stu Skinner waiting for another baby, so that's where Stu might be, and we can see Pickard back-to-back starts for him if he does go tonight. Mike, great to see you. You're going to be great on the call. Always a pleasure, sir.
You have not aged a bit here since we first met back in 2010. Still young, sharp, mid-20s as well, Tommy. Good to see you. You're doing great.
That's why he's the best. Mike Benton from the Kraken Audio Network. He is the best. That is Mike Benton there. Good to have him on. I was incorrect about Pickard because I forgot Skinner started on Saturday. And then the Kraken did finish up their warm-up, or warm-up is coming to a close. It is going to be the 28-year-old Joey Decord getting the start in goal. Phil Grubauer probably gets the nod tomorrow for Seattle at home against the Washington Capitals. The Kraken are going to open up a homestand. I believe it's a 5-gamer as soon as they get back tonight. Tomorrow, they're right back into it. So, yeah, Decord versus Calvin Pickard tonight. Pickard getting the start as Stu Skinner is happy at home or at the hospital with his wife and his son, Bo, and his new son that arrived today. So congratulations to the Skinners there. Yeah, the Kraken get the Ducks, Sharks, Flames, Red Wings, and Maple Leafs, and that homestand starts tomorrow. Any thoughts there from what Mike had to say? Mike is excellent, good guy. Yeah, he was in the system, as we like to say, with the Oilers down in Stockton, and I think somebody texted in. Brian Pitton, Troll says, "Damn, that's a name I haven't heard."
What's the name
forever.
again?
Brian Pitton.
Wow, when he dropped Brian Young, I was like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian Pitton,
Pitton, Pitton. I think Liam Reddix might have had some time down there. Devin Dubnyk started out with Stockton.
It's Liam Reddick's birthday today, Tom.
Is it really?
Sports history, yeah. That's a Mac T favorite right there.
Yeah, he's a Mac T type of player. Great references there from Mike Benton. He's on the call for the Seattle Kraken. That guy worked his ass off to get to the NHL. He was in the ECHL with Stockton, Alaska. I feel like he was in the AHL for a bit, or did he jump right to the Dub? And he was in the Dub for a while, and then did a really good job with Everett. Now he's with the Kraken. Excellent broadcaster, great guy, and very nice to have him on. Okay, that's what. Did you want to jump into anything? Because I see a few texts that have come in.
No, I was just gonna say he seems like a great dude. Great breakdown of the Kraken, and yeah, like the Kraken, it's go time now. This is their playoff right now. They're trying to get back in it. They're 8 points back of the Calgary Flames, who are not slowing down, Tom.
No.
So the Kraken have some work to do, and I mean, they would love a couple points here tonight. Easier said than done, but this is a team that's got to win more often than they lose going forward, because that slow start is kind of killing them right now. And just a quick update for all Oilers fans: the Kings are losing 4-2 late in the third to the Detroit Red Wings. So those games in hand, that's a loss for the Kings, which bodes well for the Edmonton Oilers.
The Oilers get the Red Wings Thursday night. That's going to be a fun one. Todd McClellan and Cam Talbot make their return to Edmonton. I know they've been back a few times with different teams, but that'll be an interesting one. The Red Wings playing better hockey. The Kings have hit a bit of a snag. So too have the Golden Knights. LA 5-4-1 in their last 10, looking like they're probably going to drop this one to the Red Wings. And then the Golden Knights just 3-6-1 in their last 10. They did beat Florida yesterday, though. So Edmonton looking to take advantage. Okay, I'm going to rattle off a couple of texts, then we'll go over the lineups one last time, and then a quick out-of-town scoreboard update, as this is a later game on a 5-game night in the National Hockey League. Jeffy says, "Hey, gents, when one of the teams has the E-Bug as the backup for the game, is there another E-Bug in the building or just the one?" Usually it's just the one, Jeffy. He sits up in the press box. A night like tonight, where Edmonton signed Tyler Palmer from the Golden Bears to an ATO, they probably have to provide another E-Bug. And like I said, they have a couple of guys from the McEwen Griffins, from the Golden Bears, that they kind of rotate through night to night, from what I was told. And so they would still have one available in case something happens. That would be, because you have to have one. It's a league mandate. So that's, I feel like 95% sure that's what's going to happen. This is a very unique situation. Someone brought up the David Ayers situation a few years ago when he went in for Carolina and beat the Maple Leafs, even though he was their Zamboni driver. I thought that was hilarious. Okay. Coach Mike texting in says, "Holloway got his 16th night. Would Holloway have been a 20-plus goal scorer as an Oiler? Would he have the same opportunity here that he's getting in St. Louis?" That's from Coach Mike. Nance, so go for it.
I think I'm not going to say I don't know if this year he would have been a 20-goal scorer, but I think in his career, sure. I mean, he had all the chops. He's a good skater, gets around well. His finish wasn't at the best last year, but a young guy, you understand that. A little bit better in the playoffs, but he's not getting first power play time here. He's probably not even getting second power play time here, Tommy. He was not a PK guy, so he was probably going to moonlight in your second line at the highest, and then probably a third, fourth line role here on the Edmonton Oilers, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, especially for a young player on a Stanley Cup contender. So I think, yes, he would have been a 20-goal scorer. I wouldn't say this year, but I say at one point in his career, Tom. And definitely, I don't think he's getting the same opportunity he is in St. Louis. And good on him, man.
Yeah.
He's taking advantage of the opportunity. He's playing great. He's got 16 goals, and he's fitting in well there. So good on him.
Mike, I would say he'd probably have double the goals Podkolzin has right now. Podkolzin, 6 goals, 13 assists, 19 points. I feel like he'd probably be in that spot with Leon Draisaitl, maybe somewhere around 35 points at this part of the season. Whether I think there would be a shot for 20 goals, but Hernan makes a good point. No power play time. Maybe up and down the lineup a little bit, but if he did settle in on Draisaitl's line on that left side where Podkolzin's been stapled all season, I think he'd have double the goals and maybe 30 points, 35 points right now.
Yeah, he's on the first power play unit, Tom. So that's huge, right? Like you get a lot of points on, and all the points count the same. I'm not discounting it, but I'm just saying Dylan Holloway was not playing on the first power play here, and he wouldn't be the 6th, 7th, 8th option if there was injuries or anything. I truly don't.
I was hopeful he'd work his way up the lineup here, and I think there would be an appetite for that. But yeah, it's too bad. But he's a St. Louis Blue. Really quickly, McDavid between Draisaitl and Hyman tonight. Henrique with Podkolzin and Arvidsson. Janmark with Nugent-Hopkins and Brown. Nugent-Hopkins playing center on that line. Philp between Perry and Kapanen. That means no Jeff Skinner. On defense, Ekholm with Bouchard. Nurse good to go with Stetcher. Kulak with Emberson. Calvin Pickard is your starter in goal. Tyler Palmer from the Golden Bears signed to an ATO to back up Pickard because Stu Skinner celebrating the birth of his second baby boy today. At the other end of the rink, 28-year-old Joey Decord gets the nod for Seattle. He is their number one, 17-11-2 on the year. 0-4-1, though, against the Oilers in his career. 389 GAA, 879 save percentage versus Edmonton. And then really quickly, out-of-town scores. Detroit 4, LA 2, 3 minutes left there. Philly up 3-1 on New Jersey. Just under 4 minutes there after 2 in St. Louis. The Canucks lead 4-1, and then you've got the Oilers welcoming in the Kraken and the Penguins visiting the Sharks. Hernan Salas, any final thoughts from you?
It's going to be a good one down there at Rogers Place. Excited to see Connor McDavid return. I think he's going to have a big night, so we'll break it all down. And Calvin Pickard has really good numbers in his last 9, 8-1, Tom. I'm not concerned at all about the goaltending, but Kraken Oilers, always a good time, and look forward to the game, and we'll chat in about 2.5 to 3 hours.
It's going to be fun. Huge thank you to Mike Benton for joining us today. To everybody who watched and listened, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for and the Latino Heat. Hernan Salas, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy the Oilers versus the Kraken. We'll see you on the postgame show. Bye-bye.